The crowd whispers in your ear that kindness is your crown and empathy is your shield, but they offer you a fool's comfort. In the sudden, freezing tempest of a crisis, these so-called virtues are not your protection. They are the very daggers that will find the gaps in your armor, held by the hands of those you sought to help. History does not celebrate the nice guy who collapsed with a smile. It carves the names of those who stood immovable while the world around them crumbled into dust. Understand this brutal reality. The world has no respect for the man who strips himself bare in the name of authenticity. To reveal your heart is to provide your enemies with the map to your destruction. It is to signal exactly where to strike for a lethal blow. In the savage arithmetic of high-stakes business and cold-blooded politics, your mercy is interpreted as a lack of iron, and the weak are destined to be the designated prey for the strong. Picture the air thinning as your empire begins to tilt, or the agonizing realization of a betrayal from your inner circle. Most men will gasp, rage, or plead, and in that singular moment of reaction, they are finished. The moment you allow a flinch to cross your face or a tremble to infect your voice, you have handed your adversary the master key to the fortress of your mind, allowing them to dictate your fate while you are blinded by your own blood. Your emotions are a currency, a finite treasure that you have squandered on people and problems that merit only your indifference. To be governed by your feelings is to be a bankrupt ruler, begging for scraps of validation from the very wolves at your door. Take heed of the oracle of power. He who is ruled by emotion hands his sword to his enemy. If you do not learn to freeze your blood, you will surely drown in it.
Observe the masses, and you will see a wretched display of autopilot existence. Most men do not act, they merely react to the stimulus of the moment. When pressure mounts, they do not issue commands, they leak their power by explaining themselves, desperately seeking validation in a world that only respects results. This is the fracture of the multitude. When the storm hits, their fear clouds every judgment, and their anger blinds all reason, driving them to commit the very blunders that ensure their ruin. Understand the nature of Fortuna. She is a raging river that, when she breaks her banks, sweeps away every weak structure and drowns the man who lacks the foresight to build his embankments during the calm. She preys upon the hesitant and the trembling. Take this truth to your core. Fortune is a woman, and if you wish to master her, it is necessary to beat and ill-use her. She does not submit to the cautious or the prayerful. She yields only to those who treat her with a cold, audacious violence. Cast aside the soft delusions of religious morality. True virtue is not goodness, but the cold, surgical ability to achieve your end regardless of the means. This discipline is never born in the lap of luxury or the ease of peace. It is a weapon forged exclusively in the furnace of suffering, humiliation, and adversity. To possess virtue is to have mastered your own internal chaos, turning your emotions into obedient servants, while the rest of the world remains enslaved to their pulses. The final separation between the master and the pawn is the capacity for adaptation. The world is a shifting landscape of necessity. The wise man observes the spirit of the times and alters his nature to match the wind. Meanwhile, the rigid man, too proud or too fearful to change, remains fixed in his old ways until Fortuna varies the circumstances and destroys him utterly. You must learn to move with the cold calculation of the strategist, for in the geography of power, those who cannot adapt to the storm are destined to be buried by it.
While the common herd expends their spirit in frantic wailing and aimless motion, you must cultivate the discipline of the stationary observer. In the theater of human affairs, the individual who does not rush and does not react quietly becomes a signal of stability in a world of noise. By refusing to surrender your judgment to the emotional contagion of the crowd, you naturally ascend as a center of gravity, attracting influence and trust from those who are drowning in their own panic. You are no longer a pawn pushed by the winds of necessity. You are the architect of the terrain, maintaining a form of quiet power that terrifies those who cannot master themselves. Understand that true power often moves in the shadows and operates beneath the deceptive surface of polite smiles. Every emotional outburst you suppress is a secret kept. Every reaction you withhold is a fortification built around your vulnerabilities. When you remain silent and immovable, your enemies are left to scream into a void that does not care, unable to locate your weaknesses or exploit the cracks in your armor. This strategic invisibility allows you to gather intelligence from the impulsive disclosures of others, while you remain an unreadable fortress, moving with a calculated intention that they cannot anticipate. The most formidable armor a prince can wear is the mantle of indifference, a cold, surgical detachment that renders external chaos powerless. When you cease to crave the approval of the multitude and treat their insults as mere data to be analyzed, you become an immutable object, as a cliff that watches the waves break against its base without flinching. This indifference is not a lack of fire, but the total mastery of it, turning your emotions into a laser that serves your mission rather than a blaze that consumes your house. Once you are no longer a hostage to the opinions of others, you gain a rare form of freedom that allows your mind to move with absolute clarity through the storm. You must ascend to that peak where you are the one pursued, never the one begging for entry or validation. True prestige is found in scarcity, for when you are selectively available and strategically distant, your presence becomes an event, and your word becomes law. Let the world scurry to decipher your silence, for in that uncertainty, your authority expands without a single shot being fired. Remember the final decree of sovereignty. It is better to be feared than loved, but if you cannot do both, make sure they tremble at your calmness.
To understand power is to understand that your first enemy is never the man across the table, but the impulse within your own chest. Most men are mere puppets, their strings pulled by the trauma and insecurities that demand a quick reaction to every slight. To remain cold under pressure, you must cease to be a reflex and begin to be a chooser. I present to you the 3 weapons of the sovereign, forged not in heat, but in the absolute zero of a calculating mind. The first tactic is the power pause. When provoked, you must force a void of 2 to 3 seconds before a single word escapes your lips. This silence is not a sign of hesitation. It is the most aggressive move you can make, for it robs the aggressor of the immediate validation they crave. In this frozen interval, you effectively execute the people-pleaser within you and allow your strategic reason to seize the command. By refusing to participate in the emotional rhythm of your adversary, you signal that their storm has not even made you wet. The second weapon is verbal minimalism. You must train your tongue to say less than is necessary. Every explanation you offer is a leak of power, a disclosure of your blueprints to an enemy who will eventually use them to strike you. When you are insulted or questioned, do not defend your existence, for no is a complete sentence, and I don't like that is a final decree. Instead, respond with a calculated stillness and observe your opponent as if they were a specimen in a glass jar, noting their desperation as they drown in the silence you have created. The third tactic is calculated inaction, the supreme art of winning by refusing to show up to the battle your enemy has prepared. Master the patience to let a situation resolve itself, recognizing that many men will destroy themselves through their own urgency without a single shot being fired by your hand. While the impatient exhausts their energy in frantic movements and short-sighted decisions, you conserve your strength for the moment when victory is an inevitability. True sovereignty is erasing the unworthy from reality entirely, treating them as ghosts screaming into a void that does not care. In conclusion, remember that history does not record the names of the loud and the reactive. It carves into stone only the minds that could not be broken. While the crowd fractures under the weight of uncertainty, you must stand as a center of gravity, attracting influence through the sheer stability of your detachment. You are not cold because you lack fire, but because you have mastered the flame and focused it into a surgical laser. A wise intellect always sees opportunity in chaos, where the weak only see disaster. Now go forth with your blood frozen and your mind clear. The world belongs to the one who refuses to flinch.